Transforming conflict. How do we transform conflict? And ultimately, the potential of conflict is to be transformed into peace. So we begin by having that realization that conflict contains the seed of peace within itself. That's quite something, because it means that whatever difficult situation you find yourself in, it has the potential to actually bring you to a deep level of inner peace, more than any normal situation in your life. Which is quite something. So this is a really great opportunity if you find yourself in conflict. It's a great opportunity. It could change your life for the better. It could change the world for the better because of what you might learn. How can you use it? This is the question. And the way that we transform it is we transform it through the gift of diplomacy. Diplomacy is what we use. It's the sword that we use to cut ourselves free from the conflict. Right? So diplomacy involves deep listening to yourself, to your heart, listening to your inner being, listening to your ego, listening to your needs, your wants, your desires, your longings, becoming aware of your projections, your tendency towards blaming the other, and to bring you to a place where you can fully be responsible for your own feelings, for your own side of the matter. This is the great possibility inherent in any conflict, in any human conflict. And all human conflict, whether it's between one person and another, or whether it's in an organization or an organism or a community, or whether it's a full-blown war between two whole nations or tribes or factions, it's all rooted inside the individual. It's all rooted at its core in the conflict between, it's the conflict inside us. That because we have forgotten who we are, we've forgotten our higher capacities. We've forgotten that we are an aspect of the whole. And our journey in the world is to remember that. And conflict is one of the key touchstones, the pathways, the markers that can take us towards union. And nothing can get us there quicker, in a way, than conflict, particularly in relationships, in personal relationships. Because I imagine this is probably where this video, this recording, can be of most use. And I only have 10 minutes really to try and lay down what I consider the essence of making this transformation. And you can always find out a lot more from my other teachings. But the essence really for me is this: it's empathy, to be able to empathize with the other and to be able to see clearly your own propensity to blame the other. And the moment that you can uproot that and you can begin to empathize with the other, then you've changed the conflict. You've shifted it. And it only takes one person to shift a conflict. And often it's going to be you, because you're the one that has shown the interest. You're the one that's here listening to this. Good luck if the other person in the conflict, the other side, has the availability and the bandwidth and the capacity and the maturity to also bend and learn and grow. But often that isn't the case. Often it feels unjust because you're the one. It feels like you're the one doing all the work. You're the one doing all the yielding. You're the one doing all the growing. You're the one that's really committed to diplomacy, and the other, they kind of, that's not where they're at. They haven't reached that. They're in fully engaged in their projections and their blame game. And that's often how it is. But it only takes one of you to kind of create this shift, this quantum leap that will bring an end to the conflict. And then your concern is not what the other does. It is not your concern. Your concern is to be authentic and true and clear, true to yourself, to your heart, and clear and courteous and as kind as you can and as clear as you can, so that you get the maximum lesson and reward. And then what you'll find is the other person also gets the perfect lesson for them. So a lot of it is often about forgiveness from you, self-forgiveness. A lot of it is about surrendering your ego's position, letting the other think they've won, letting the other, express, blame. If that's how it turns out. Often that's how it turns out. But you disengage the hooks from your side in the relationship. And that's a process, that's a journey. An inner journey where you have to look hard into yourself and be honest and realize that, the urge for revenge, or the urge to kind of get one up on the other, or the urge to kind of get something back for yourself, that's the ego's urge. That's the mind's need. Like, I've got to have something for me. And the thing for you is freedom. The thing for you is love. One of my great teachers taught me this wonderful one line, the ultimate art is to return non-love with love. So when someone else is bringing the conflict to you, you return that with love. And that doesn't mean all sort of wishy-washy, lovely, huggy, touchy love often. It just means that you don't react. That's your love. That you don't react and throw it back at them. You disengage from the conflict game, from the battlefield. You put your sword away. You lay it down between you. You don't give up your self-respect, because there are instances in which you have to own things that for the sake of self-respect. And sometimes it means that you need to actually get assistance from a third person, from another person, a professional, and certainly if you're in an abusive situation and you're the target of serious abuse, if it's physical, absolutely, you need to get help, immediately. And if it's violent, emotional abuse that feels like it could turn into something else, you should also, in that instance, get help so that there's safety. So it's for you your self-respect and your self-love to decide whether that's something you need, or whether you can kind of make this transition, if the other person has enough capacity, self-love, to kind of be reasonable with you. But sometimes they're not reasonable. That doesn't mean you can't be reasonable and be clear. But if the situation gets difficult, then it's always good to get some help from someone else, particularly someone who's trained in those things. And there are many of them in the world. But for us, the journey, the real journey, the deepest journey, whether you're working with an advisor or not, is how can you inwardly grow from this? How can you keep your heart open? And often that means that, yes, you get hurt because there's interactions in the conflict, but that your art of diplomacy, which you learn how to respond to someone in a courteous way, how to be clear, how to maintain a level of kindness, in your interactions, and thoughtfulness, and a lot of the time the ability not to say something, because it's triggered you, but then you manage to withhold that, take it away, process it on your own, and then come back with with more kind of grounding and balance. That's, all those things contribute to this diplomatic shift. And diplomatic is not false. Diplomatic is a real art. It's like the samurai art. It's like Aikido when someone's coming at you with something difficult, and you let it glide by, and maybe it circles around and comes back to that person, and but it's not through you throwing it back. It's through you disengaging from your need to be part of the battle, it can be quite a show, and so I want you to really consider, how will you return non-love with love, and what a journey that can be. And it doesn't mean you get walked over, but it does sometimes mean that you allow the other to believe they've won, and the only winner in any conflict situation is the one that keeps their heart open. It's the only winner. The one that is able to just come back and open your heart and embrace life. And what that sometimes does, obviously, is that capacity then creates healing in the relationship. It can create a beautiful healing energy, because you're not engaging with the dynamic, because it's just a dynamic. It's two wounding patterns from childhood meeting each other, or it's two karmic wounding patterns engaging each other, two swords that want to fight. And if you put the sword down, how's the other one what's it gonna do? There is no fight anymore. So there's only the capacity then for some form of healing or let go. And that form of healing can lead to a really good friendship, actually, where you thought that previously there would be no way that this situation could be reconciled. So there's wonderful gifts to be discovered in conflict. And eventually, as you learn to kind of move with this fluidity and this self-respect and with kindness towards all beings, then you begin to find the peace, because the peace resides in the heart, in your heart, in the purity of your heart. This is the only thing that can't be tarnished, hurt, wounded, or damaged by another, because the purity of your heart can never be tarnished. And that's how we transform conflict into peace.